And just like that, this is another episode. You're currently in perspective, and this is, I believe, episode 5 of In Perspective. Wow, I've been doing this for a good 2 months already, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so in this episode, I have a few things I wanted to talk about. One of them is pricing in car photography, which, in my opinion, can be a very decisive and very controversial sort of thing to talk about because some people might agree on your prices, some people might not, and it creates this very almost a very diverse sort of, oh, is $100 for a car photo shoot a lot, or is $1,000 for a car photo shoot a lot? So I'm gonna bring that up a little bit, and I'm also gonna talk about my recent experience with I'm calling it dealership hopping. So when I go from one dealership to another, asking if they need photos done for social media marketing, anything like that, and how I uh, got in contact with a somewhat local car photography club. And I also wanted to talk about basically how my photography is sort of starting to pick back up compared to, I think it was the third In Perspective, where I was talking about how I was not really finding anything, and ever since then I've slowly been picking up more clients, more, I guess, business, or more opportunities, I guess you could say. Okay, let's start with the whole pricing thing. This is probably going to take up the bulk of this podcast episode. So I work with a dealership. They call me in whenever they need a photo shoot done. I'm not gonna say their name, obviously, for privacy and uh, my own safety, so I don't get in trouble. But I've done a photo shoot for them before when I first approached them doing the whole dealership hopping thing. And they paid me $50 to do a whole entire car shoot. They let me take the car out. It was an Audi RS7. Take out a car and get photos of it. For the first time, and also getting to drive such a fast and like really luxurious car like an Audi RS7, um, I was asking for 75, but I told them 50 originally because when I first started talking to them before they even offered to let me take photos of a car, I told them 50 for a car that would just be basic shots, not even like edited or anything. So when they let me take the car out for photos and get the photos done, they asked me how much, and then I told him I wanted 75, and then he was like, but you told me 50, and I was like, yes, I told you 50, but that was for assuming you wanted boring basic shots. So he basically just said, okay, well, we'll pay for 50 now, and I didn't really get a say in it, and at the time I was so new to uh, business and sales, or whatever you want to call it, and I was just happy that I even got to take photos for this dealership. So I let it go. It was whatever. And then when they posted those photos, they didn't tag me. They didn't credit me or anything in the description, or the description of the post or whatever, or in the, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Not the description, the oh my gosh. Yeah, let's just go with description. I'm having a brain fart. In the description of their post for the photos that I took, they were like, oh, look at this photo that a happy customer took. And they did that for like 2 or 3 posts. And in the back of my head, I was like, I don't own that Audi RS7. I mean, if they want to give it to me and pay for my insurance and whatnot, that'd be fine. But last I checked, I didn't own the car. I wasn't a happy customer. So I decided to email or text the owner and tell him, yo, do you guys mind tagging me in these photos that I took rather than the customer or whatever? And he was like, oh, yeah, sure. And then they posted a couple more and they tagged me, thankfully. I think that was just a little miscommunication. It was fine once I figured that out or whatever. And after that, I didn't hear from them for a good 2 months, 3 months. And then in December, they contacted me again over Instagram, which was a little weird, but it was one of the marketing people, and this marketing person was basically saying that they want video done for like a commercial sort of thing. So I was okay with that. I told them I'm fine with it. They didn't get back with me for that, for a good at all, for the whole video. Then just the other week, that marketing person got a hold of me again and said that they have a few vehicles that they want photographed. And I was like, I'm so confused. Do you guys want me to work for you, or are you guys just gonna keep telling me you want something done, and then just like completely disappear, or are we actually gonna make things happen? So I went in, or I told them, yeah, that's fine. And then I told them, hey, my pricing has changed since I've done a lot more gigs and sessions or whatever for different clients with video and photo. And to give you, as my listener, a brief understanding of how my pricing works, this is how I do it. I'll make this quick. $20 gets you the very basics, just a quick snapshot for the car that maybe you want to post to sell the car. It'll get you exterior, interior, yada, 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 like 30 photos or whatever for $20. Fair price, I guess. 75 can get you a more artistic, more creative shot that will be edited, but I won't go in there and brush over the car to like get out the details of the car. I'll literally just slap on a preset of mine, do a couple quick adjustments, and then send them off like 10 to 30 photos depending on how many locations I can get, etc. Then I have $100 pricing, which would be all of it. The car detail that I do to make the car stand out, and then the rest of the whole photo. And then I'll give you around 10 to 30 photos depending on location and whatnot. So that's honestly, from what I've seen back and forth. I've seen people doing like full-on car shoots for like $50. And I've also seen full-on car shoots like the ones I'm doing for like a few hundred. So I'll bring this back up in a second, but back to the whole dealership story. So I called the guy asking him if I'm still coming in. I called the manager or whatever. And I told him, I asked him if I'm still coming in. He said, he basically almost, in my opinion, he tried to kind of lowball me, saying how they want photos done, but they were telling me how if they really wanted photos, they could do them themselves. And he said something else about his family members, which confused the crap out of me. I was like, what do your family members have to do with me coming in to take photos for you guys? And this was after I told him my pricing, kind of like what I just told you. And he was basically just telling me how he wanted me to come in and we could talk about prices. And in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I'm probably almost guaranteed not to budge. So I went in kind of expecting to have to kind of be very firm on my price, which, to be quite honest, when I want to take photos of cars, I tend to be a little lenient because I really want to take photos of a car that I like. And they wanted me to do a G-Wagon, and then, actually, I'll get back to that, what I took photos of later. I went in, we talked about it. He seemed fine with the whole $100 pricing package. He wanted that one, but he only wanted like 5 photos, which, in my opinion, I honestly didn't think about, which is like a no-brainer. Like, not everyone wants 10 to 30 photos. Like, some people only want a few to like post, like, on, like get big prints out, or get bigger prints and maybe like wall decor or whatever to get printed. So he wanted like 5 photos, and I told him okay, and he wanted 75 for it. So I told him, here, how about this? We do 5 photos, they'll be fully edited, and I'll do that for $80 a car. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, so that's fine? And he was like, yep. And I was like, okay then. So they didn't lowball me. $80 was honestly quite fair for 5 photos, fully edited, compared to 10 to 30 for 100, which honestly would have taken me forever to try and aim for that marginal of photos, which honestly, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're going in and like painting over the car to adjust exposure and all that stuff to make the car stand out even more, it gets very, very tedious. And when you have a somewhat slower computer like mine that starts to like slow down a crap ton after like an hour of editing, it slows your process down a lot. So only having to do 5 photos for each car was honestly kind of nice. So with that being said, they gave me keys to a G-Wagon. I think it was a 2017. I have no clue. They didn't really tell me. I went out, took some photos of that. A lot of people were looking at me. And I'm like, I drive a Kia Soul. I don't drive this thing, so I was trying to take that feeling in for as long as I could. Took some photos of that, got a couple like funny looks and whatnot. Then I returned the car, got a AMG CLS 63. I want to fact check that because I can never remember the numbers for the CLS. Let me check. Let me pull up Instagram. Yeah, see, 63. I was thinking 53. But yeah, so I took photos for that. Dude, the exhaust on that thing. I've never really driven a car that has like very loud crackles and pops, but I would be going like 4,000 RPM in second gear, and then I would just drop it down to I would go like 4,000 RPM in like third gear, then drop it down to second, and all you would hear is like the greatest, most beautiful sound I think I've ever heard. I'd roll down the windows, turn the music all the way off, and I felt like such a jerk. So many people looked at me, but at the end of the day, I really don't care. I was enjoying it. I mean, if I had a car like that, I would probably get used to doing that so much that I wouldn't do it as much. But in that time, I was doing that every time I could. It was beautiful. I took advantage of it. But I also took photos. I got a few good ones, in my opinion. So I gave them the photos, blah, blah, blah. Edited them. They said they were great. I honestly haven't got paid for them yet. I'm supposed to get around $160 for that. But I haven't gotten paid for it. So any day now. And also, back to the whole pricing thing. I wanted to bring that story up because it kind of brought an attention to me, or it kind of brought this up to my attention. Car photography shouldn't be $50, depending on how serious and how much work you put into your photos. For me, I put just as much effort into these as I do into portrait photography, if not like honestly way more, like post photo or post shoot work. Car photos take an abysmal amount of time to edit, in my opinion, when you're going in there and detailing the car with like brushes and stuff to like make things stand out. And in my opinion, car photography is just the exact same, should be priced relatively the amount you would pay for portrait photography, which can be a couple $100. Like, you're going out, taking your time out of your day to go take photos of a car that someone else wants to have photographed. You're going out, depending on how you do it, they either have you meet up somewhere with them or they let you take the car out, which, by the way, anyone listening who wants car photos taken, mostly dealerships, let the oh my gosh, I just stuttered so bad. Let the photographer take the car out for the location shoot, because it saves them so much time, because they can just drive around, find locations, and also get like a really cool experience depending on the car, compared to just meeting someone out at a location. It kind of limits what the photographer can do. Anyway, beside the point. It's no different from a portrait shoot where you're going out, meeting whoever, doing whatever. You're going out of your way, using your time, taking the photos, going home to edit them. So think about it. It's no different than having someone meet you out to do a portrait shoot. It's no different than having someone go out and take photos of a car. Think about it. Like, sure, you're not taking pictures of a family, which is more sentimental, but in my opinion, taking photos of a car shouldn't be any different. If someone wants photos that bad, they'll be paying you a good amount of money to get really decent shots of a car. And I'm not talking about like snapshots that you post on like cars.com or whatever. I'm talking about like full on like car magazine worthy. So while $75 to $100 may not seem like a lot at all, and it's not, I'm just starting that so I can figure out where I want to lead my pricing to, which right now is comfortable, considering most people want like 1 or 2 cars done for dealerships anyway. So that's where I kind of like, when I've told people my prices before, I've gotten a couple people that were like, "Ooh, that's a lot of money," but they also say that for portrait shoots. But these are mostly younger people that asked me to take photos of cars for them. And that's one thing I will never understand. If you want something done, don't expect a photographer to do it for $5 unless they're just starting out. someone like me who's done it for a little bit and is like completely comfortable with what they're doing, I'm going to charge how much I feel fit and how much I feel is going to be somewhat profitable. I also tack on a travel fee onto my car photography. It's like $5 per 10 miles. So let's say I go out to Manassas. That's like 20, 30 miles. That's like a $20 add-on, which really isn't that much. But you got to remember, I have to pay for gas to get there. I also am taking my time out of my day to take photos for you, which, is worth some money in itself. So the travel fees, I feel like, is always, no matter what kind of photography you do, I feel like a travel fee should always be included in anything you do. Because while you are getting revenue off of what you're doing, I feel they're paying you for the service, and then the travel fee is them paying you to come out of for your like coming out you taking time out of your day to come out and do what your service is. So think of it this way: your travel fees are them supporting you to come out and do what it is, and then the actual price of the service, they're paying for that service. So the travel fee is more of, okay, here's 20 extra bucks to add on to the fact that you're coming out here taking time out of your day. And then you have the actual service price, which would be $100, $150 for whatever it may be. I don't know. So that's kind of where I fall into pricing, which is always a very touchy and very confusing subject, especially in photography, because everyone's price is completely different from one another. They can be wildly different from me to maybe some other photographer in Los Angeles. Like some photographers in Los Angeles could be charging like $500,000 for a car. Are they better than me? Probably. They probably have like a whole entire studio that they have a car come in and they have lighting and whatnot, but that's different. I don't have all that, and I will probably never fall into that type of photography because it's boring. Car photography should be just like portrait photography, or not portrait photography, but like landscape photography. You're going out, taking photos of a car where it should be, which is on the road, not on some like showroom with just like a white backdrop. While you could get some cool shots, but that's just me rambling. But yeah, so that's where I feel car photography should be, is just like portrait photography. Should be pricey, not the exact same, maybe a little lower, but around the same. Like if you're charging $250 for for portrait photography, you should be charging like $150 for car photography. That's just me. That's my opinion on it. So where does this lead to? It leads to me trying to find more car photography clients. So if you're into car photography like I am, the best way to, what I've always been told, is to go to car meets. And with this whole COVID thing that's happening, it's been very difficult. And also, I want to go to car meets, and I'm planning on going to one this week actually, and one in May. It's just been a matter of I want to go there to like meet more people, like give out cards and take photos for people and be like, yo, I do this. Like maybe we could set up a date and get like full on car shoots or car photography shoots or whatever the word is. But I think it's just stupid, as it may say, anxiety, because I don't know everything about cars, and I don't know about cars as much as a lot of people do that go to these car meets. So I really want to go to them, but like as much research as I've been doing, I'm just still not on that level to where I can be comfortable in having a full-on conversation with a car person who's got like some sort of like, I don't know, like some Nissan GTR or some, and they're talking about their intake and stuff. And while I understand what an intake is, blah, 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 like that's a no-brainer. But like when they're talking about like tuning and like different tunes or whatever that they have on their car, I'm like, you're losing me. So that's why I've been a little nervous about going to car meets. But at the same time, how am I going to learn? How am I going to experience and get more people to want to do shoots with if I don't go to these? So, as my substitute for that, as I kind of mentioned before, is my whole dealership hopping, which is as stupid as it may sound. I think it works. It's just you go in, you go to a dealership. I would prefer, or I'd recommend you have like a little like a printout that's like it's got the plastic stuff over it. What is it? I can here. Let me look it up. But I'd recommend you have that and lamination. There we go. I like if you get a photo or like a collage done, you Photoshop a few photos of yours onto one photo or one page or whatever, print that out, get it laminated, and you have that, and you have maybe a pricing piece of paper or packet that has your pricing, so you're not going in like when they do ask you how much you're charging. It's very much appropriate to have a collage because if you can show them right then and there without having to pull up your Instagram, number one, they'll think, wow, this person's came prepared. Number two, they don't have to like awkwardly like look over your shoulder on your phone. You have this physical, and they'll know you're serious if you bring that in. Does it work all the time? No. What I've noticed is that a lot of big dealerships, like Pohanka of blah 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 or Sheehy or whatever. I don't know if Sheehy and Pohanka are like national or not, but those are like the big dealerships that I guess host different car brands like Kia and Ford and Honda, whatever. Those you tend to have very little luck with. The ones I've noticed is going to like the not smaller ones, but the ones that aren't hosted by a car brand already. Like the one I work for, I was literally about to name drop, but I'm not going to. They provide luxury and some sports cars, and they aren't hosted by Audi. They aren't hosted by Mercedes or Bentley or anything like that. They are independent. So that's just easier. Like going to places like that, in my opinion, you have a higher chance of getting accepted for what you want to do, which, in my opinion, could help you out a lot because then you don't have to deal with the pressure of working for a big time dealership that is like completely under like Kia or Ford or Honda or Porsche. Speaking of Porsche, I went into a Porsche dealership the other day and I offered them my whole services, yada yada, and the managers were on a business call. So I was like, okay, I left them a business card, and I went to two different dealerships, and they all said Porsche was brand new. They just opened like 2 months ago in Chantilly, and they needed a photographer. And I'm like, oh, I really wish I asked the receptionist what time, if I could come back. So I left them an email when I got home, and I'm planning on calling them after this podcast, actually, when they open. But like, I'm like, oh my freaking gosh, I could have... Oh, if I impress the business or the managers, imagine what I could be doing for Porsche right now. Imagine. Anyway, sorry, I got a little bit excited. I really did. Back to what I was saying. Yeah, working for like not smaller dealerships, but dealerships that aren't like hosted by like an already like car brand or whatever. I think those are your go-to. You can still try dealerships like I said, maybe you'll have luck with like Porsche or Jaguar, which I didn't get to go to Jaguar because I ran out of business cards. Anyway, but yeah, that's a funny story. I went out in Chantilly. I really had so many places I want to go to. Then I ran out of business cards, and I was like, crap. So I'm going to have to go back to Chantilly. Anyway, that's beside the freaking point. Your best luck is to go to these small dealerships, like I've said. And they tend to not really have a set photographer. Maybe they'll have someone who works there that just uses like some camera and takes photos. That's kind of what I had luck with. And that's your best bet. That's really your best bet is to go to that. So with that being said, finding car clients is very difficult. They come and go. I've done a couple videos lately. Is it something I'm like comfortable with, like I am with car photography? To be quite honest, not exactly, because I'm still getting used to my gimbal, and I'm not like I'm not like completely like at all comfortable with Lightroom yet, to where I can just be like, oh yeah, do that, do that, do that, do that, and not even think about what I'm doing or having to look it up all the time. I'm kind of getting there, but my photography is where it's at for quality. My video, people are impressed with it, so I'll go with it. But I use a Ronin SC gimbal with my Fuji X-T3, and I use a 35 mil usually when I'm doing video shoots, car shoots in particular. And I cannot figure out, like, I'll balance it and I'll use the app and it'll say everything's excellent, the pan, the roll, the tilt, whatever, and I'll say it's an excellent balancing condition, but I still get a decent amount of like shake, and I hate it. So I have to use a warp stabilizer, and if any of you guys know, like, you can use the app and figure out a lot of things, but like I don't know what half of it does, and like I just haven't had the time or know how to like figure it out because I don't want to mess it up. Like, I know you can just reset it back to default, but if any of you guys know how to figure that out, I have a website, tylrphotographer.com. Leave me a submission, even though I know no one's gonna do that for what I'm trying to figure out, which I can just figure out on YouTube. But anyway, yeah. So car photography is very, 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 very difficult to make a full-on gradual income with. So with that being said, I have a lot of things that I want to do with car photography. Oh, the car group, they gave me this one idea, which I actually really, really want to do, is create like a little group. Create like not like, although I'm gonna have like Tyler Photographer Business, it'd be really dope to have like a little bit of like a group of like car photographers as like a business. It's kind of what he has. Let me pull up his Instagram, but that's kind of what this guy has. He was at an Audi dealership when I met him. And there's his Student Drivers CC, School Zone Children I Play. I think that's the name of it. Yeah, Student Driver CC. I don't know what the CC stands for, to be quite honest. But he has like, he said it's more of a car community than a car photography community or group. But like, I kind of thought of like creating my own like I could have like 3 or 4 other photographers, and we could just go out to like dealerships and stuff. Kind of like, we're freelancers, but we could work for dealerships or whatever. That's just an idea of what I had. The only problem is I posted this on my story on Snapchat, but I have no friends who are into photography like I am. And it sucks. It really does, because I don't really know anyone in my general like area, like where I live, that does photography as seriously as I do. So I've struggled trying to like think of people who could possibly help me out. And there was like a couple people that swiped up and said, "Hey, I'm a photographer too." And then they would send me pictures, and like, none of them really listen to this podcast, but like, they were really, really like, they weren't like, all for you for taking photos of your car. Like, I really like go for it, but you, like, no matter how I word this, it's gonna sound kind of rude, but like, you got to get to a point to where, like, you got to get to a point in your photography where, I don't know, like, these people who would swipe up, I would have never known they'd take photos. And then when they did show me the photos, I'm like, those are just photos you taken with your phone. You didn't do any edits to them or anything. So like, all for you for taking photos and like aspiring to be a photographer, but I wouldn't like, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, a little off topic. If you listen to the last podcast, it's like completely random. I was talking to my friend Devin on doing another film. Spoiler alert, that's never coming. Not to like go into too much detail, but it was a mess, and nothing got done whenever we would meet up. And there was, since, yeah, I'm not gonna go into detail because it's gonna make me sound like I'm just like talking smack, which I'm not. But to give y'all a little backstory, it just didn't go well. It was the process of creating everything did not go right, so the filming wasn't going right. So It didn't. It wasn't going to happen. So I quit that, and right now I'm more focused on car photography, which I like. Even like they wanted to do that project for class, and it was for a class grade. Here's the thing: I'm not in school anymore. It's not really going to benefit me because all I was doing was filming. I didn't really get much say in the process of writing, which when I did write something for them, it got deleted. So that was like strike one for me. And then strike two was when nothing got done. And then strike three was when literally we had everyone together for the film. The one day we all had time to work on it. Nothing got done. So I quit, and like I told my teacher, because I texted him and I told him, nothing's getting done. I'm sorry, but I've got to quit. I've got to focus on more important things because that wasn't going to be beneficial to me. I didn't really get a creative saying and how it went really, and yeah, it just didn't go well. So I wanted to move on to things that would help me financially and help me grow as a photographer. So that was not it. I wasn't even in school, so there was no benefit to me. Like I wasn't getting graded on it. So I just quit that, and I've been focusing on the whole car photography thing, which I much prefer doing something that I have control in. I will never really want to be a photographer, videographer. I work for anyone in the creative industry. Where I get told what to do. I always want to do photography and video for myself. Like I want to be the director. I want to be able to write the script, whatever it may be. And that's where I love photography and videography is, or cinematography for that matter, is the whole creative outlook on it, and the input you can put into photography and cinematography and videography, whatever you want to call it. That's not what I was getting with that project. So I will never want to work for someone or like a group or a business or whatever it may be that I don't get any creative outlook onto, or creative input. That's just my opinion. If you're a photographer, I feel like anyone could understand that, unless you're doing like real estate photography. There's that type of photography, which is like completely different. But I'm talking about like portraits and cars and video and all that jazz. I'm ranting. I'm sorry, but yeah, I think that'll conclude. Oh gosh, I've been going on for 33 minutes. 32. I think that'll conclude this In Perspective, episode 5. Why did I say it like that? I hope you guys learned something. I hope if you're into car photography or any photography at all, and you're like really iffy on pricing, look at your local pricing. And if you're like somewhat comfortable, obviously charge yours lower until you're like at that level of whoever's charging a few hundred, few grand, but don't charge underpriced. I think it was Peter McKinnon or someone said this. Don't underprice yourself because that'll make you look like you're not comfortable with what you're doing, and don't overprice it. Don't like completely overprice it unless like you're that bougie or whatever. But yeah, that'll end this In Perspective podcast. I swear I had an outro for one of these, but I don't remember it. So yeah, I don't remember the outro. I'll think of one, or I'll look back on whichever one it was and try and figure it out and remember it for the ending. I struggle to even remember the intro sometimes. I'll literally listen to a podcast and be like, okay, and just like that, this is another episode. You are currently, like, I'll have to like memorize it because like I've been doing this podcast for a couple months now, but like I haven't done it like every week, so it's not fresh in my head to be like, and just like that, this is another episode and you're currently in perspective. So it hasn't stuck in my mind like it should yet. So with that being said, this is the outro of In Perspective. I hope you enjoyed, and that's going to be the end of this. Goodbye.